What is up, y'all? Blakely Dunn is here to talk to you about how I beat the binge. This is my next step. Okay, so this step finna get real. So I need you to take a second and remove all judgment. In other words, don't judge me based on anything I'm about to tell you. And not only do you need to remove judgment from, me, you need to remove judgment from yourself if this category applies to you. Some of you watching this, it may not be your issue at all. So, the last thing we talked about was figuring out your likes and dislikes. The next step is, for me, there's two things, and I must do one at a time, was alcohol. When I first started realizing, what a healthy lifestyle entailed, as well as what I needed to do to beat binge eating, or even, I didn't even really know what I needed to do to beat binge eating yet. But early on, I recognized that when I would drink, it wasn't even necessarily while I was drinking, because usually while I was drinking, I was in a skimpy outfit and I didn't want to look bloated or too full. So I didn't really, struggle with that until it was 4 a.m. and I was starving like Marvin, because all day long I didn't eat a lot because I didn't want my belly pooch to be too pooched in my skimpy little dress. Seriously. So I would restrict, and not eat. And then that night, after a night of drinking, I would end up face down. Well, actually, face down in some crystals. It was usually 2 corn pups, 2 cheese crystals, a giant French fry, and a Diet Coke. Anyways, I wouldn't really binge eat, though. It was a meal. I'll give it that. I didn't binge. I just ate till I was full. It was the next day. Not out of guilt for being drunk or even eating the crystals. It was more out of, I need to get rid of this hangover. So for me, hangovers never affected my noggin. They always affected my belly. I would be so sick. Vomiting, especially if I did not vomit the night before. I told you I was getting real, okay? So I would end up eating some kind of greasy breakfast of fast food. Lunch would be the same. Dinner would be the same. And that whole day would be a binge fest of crap. So I started to recognize that, of course, but I was not ready to stop the party lifestyle. So what I did was I stopped the restriction during the day on those days, because it really didn't change my belly pooch. And I just drank less often. Instead of multiple times during the week, it got to just weekends. And then eventually it got to once or twice a month, and then once a month. I still would binge the day after. I wasn't able to stop that because I was so damn sick and hungry and nauseous and just felt like I needed to soak up the grease. So, hang on a second. You need to see this. Hey, Bubba. Say hi, everybody. It's just a snuggling behind me right now. So, that was the first realization. It took a long time to get to a place to where I was ready to stop drinking. Do I think drinking alcohol is absolutely evil or awful? For people that can do it in a normal way, in other words, a couple glasses of wine or a couple of beers or even a shot or two, and live life like normal? No, I don't. But for people like me that binge drink, along with binge eating, no, I don't need to have that in my life, and neither do you. And when I mean binge drinking, I'm talking about white girl wasted, okay? I'm talking about not going out and having a good time and catching a little buzz, but I'm talking about getting shit-faced, like stumbling around, making a fool of yourself, but not remembering it the next day, possibly going home with strangers, that type of shit. Okay, so that ended up being the first thing, I realized I needed to control. And then I quit drinking not because of binge eating. I quit drinking because of the other stuff that you just heard me mention, and some other things that are not needed for this video. When I quit the drinking, though, it was almost as if I needed to binge more. I don't really know how to explain that. It was like I had to replace the alcohol with food. And my boyfriend quit drinking with me as well. And so, date night, what do? You eat a lot. Yeah. And I would blame that on him when it wasn't his fault. So, I stopped the day after hangover binge eating, but replaced it with the date night binging, to the point to where it was no longer really a date night because I felt so uncomfortable and shameful and embarrassed, and then I would cry about it. I'm not really sure how this man still loves me, to be honest with you, sometimes. And then, you know, it just, yeah. But I did realize that I was not going to be able to control my food if I did not stop drinking. So, the next one. 100% real. Marijuana. I have smoked weed. I tried it for the first time when I was 14. It did not become something that was a part of my life daily, though, until probably like 19. I was dating a drug dealer. And it was constantly there and constantly supplied to me. And I dropped out of school and was working, and back then I didn't actually drink at that young age. Weed was my thing, and so every day, smoke every day. I was not the person that smoked and went to work. I've never did that. I wasn't comfortable with that, especially with my job. But when I got home, it was on like Donkey Kong, especially before fitness entered my life. And, you know, it's kind of odd. Back then, I didn't binge eat when I smoked. I don't really know. I didn't really think of that till just now, and I'm not really sure when the binging started with marijuana. I'm not really sure when that happened, at what point in my life. I need to think about that. But anyway, it did. It ended up being every single time I'd smoke, I would stuff my face uncontrollably, man. I mean, it wasn't even an urge. There was no urge involved, nothing in my brain. If you're reading Brain Over Binge, there was no human brain and non-human brain telling me to binge. I just went at it. It's the munchies. It's a fact. I kind of got to where I thought it was in my head until I was watching Revenge Body with Khloe Kardashian the other day, and there was a lady, I'm digressing a little bit, but there was a girl that was getting trained by Gunnar Peterson, and she was like, I smoke like 5 times a day, which I never was that person. But anyway, and he was like, well, you're not going to be able to control your appetite if you continue to smoke weed like that. So I had a hard time with this one because, especially once I quit drinking. I originally quit drinking and smoking at the same time. And then that was just too much for me. I still needed an outlet, especially my very, very, very stressful job. Emergency medicine kills me. I see a lot of sad, and I take it home with me, and it's hard to get away from. And so I would come home and smoke. And it didn't matter if I ate before I smoked. It didn't matter if I saved my dinner for after I smoked because I knew I'd want to eat something. It didn't matter. It didn't fucking matter. I was finna stuff my face all night long. And I kept, you know, telling Terry that I knew this was part of my issue, and then I would digress. And then it got to where I had to smoke just to sleep. It was getting to where smoking weed was more than therapy. It was actually, I was using it in order to sleep. So I would sleep eat. I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I didn't even remember this. Actually, I would find crumbs in my bed or remnants of the food downstairs in the kitchen. Things like that. So I stopped the weed and would take ibuprofen PM, and I would still flipping sleep eat. So yeah. Then I was like, okay, well, I'll just smoke once a week. Because even now as I'm sitting here talking to you, I don't think smoking marijuana is bad. I really don't. If you're a person that can use it appropriately, which is every now and then, if you're a person that does not spend, you know, your whole paycheck and knows how to balance life with it, and that doesn't depend on it all day, every single day, if you're someone That is a motivated smoker. That is not me, just so you know. But someone that can get up and live life, and life is great even if they're high, that's not me. Because I'm like, stop it. Stop licking. Anyway, digressing a little bit. But I think that was my issue, is my outlook on marijuana as a whole. I don't feel like it's that bad of a drug, especially when used properly. So I struggle with quitting. You know, with alcohol, I had all this bad experience with it. With smoking weed, my issues were not being able to breathe from my workouts, and then the binging. So the once a week, it would work for like 2 weekends, right? I was like, okay, it'll just be a weekend thing. I'm fine. I'll freaking stuff my face that one night. It's not that bad. But I never could stick to that. It would always be like the second week, and then it'd be like, Saturday night I smoke when I got off. Sunday night I'm smoking. Monday I'm smoking. And it would just end up, I could never, I guess it's a part of having an addictive personality. In my opinion, that must be what it is. So, had to put the shit down. Had to put it down. And the only way I could completely eliminate overeating or binge eating was to stop smoking weed. So, team sober. That's where I'm at with that. And it, you know, that happened this over this whole past year. And it was a struggle because there are so many friends that I have in my life that you guys probably never see because they're not in my fitness world. They're not on my social media. And these are my ride or die real friends. These are the people that have been there for me for 15 plus years. And they smoke every day. And so it was hard for me. I had to distance myself from them because it wasn't the weed that bothered me. It was not doing what they're doing that bothered me. Not smoking really has turned out to be absolutely amazing for me. I'm not binge eating. I can breathe in my workouts with a closed mouth. I don't, you know what I mean? Like it's been amazing. I'm so glad I quit smoking weed. But there are something, and if you're watching this and you're a smoker, you're probably going to ask me about edibles. Because you can, you know, they make weed, and it's usually in a cookie. I get one taste of the cookie with the sugar and the weed, and then as soon as I get high, I'm like, eating my face off. So, I told you this was going to be real. Probably more real for some of you. Some of you may even stop following me and may not want to be my friend anymore. But if you smoke weed, you're not going to be able to stop binge eating. Do I think you could possibly maybe smoke again? Maybe. I haven't. I'm scared. I don't want to binge. I would rather not smoke. You know, smoking weed for this long in my life, like, it's not that great anymore anyway. You know, I've learned other ways to deal with the anxiety and the sadness of my job. I've learned to silence the noise. Hashtag, I was going to go quote. Hashtag silence the noise. I've learned to meditate. I've learned to just frickin' color or watch mindless TV, which was a trigger to want to smoke at one point. Now it's not. Again, some people can smoke and not completely lose their mind with food. But if you are not that person, and most likely if you're a smoker and you're in this group, you're not that person. So step away from it for a bit. It won't kill you. Next step. Tomato.